Welcome to the Daily Beast podcast. I'm Joanna Coles, and I'm still Chief Content Officer of the Daily Beast.
And I am Samantha Bee, Chief Content Officer and Manager of the President's Candy Bowl. We've got Hershey miniatures in there, Tootsie Rolls, gross, but also, most importantly, Laffy Taffy, which is not a presidential candy. It's not.
And don't forget Starburst, which
Starbursts, yes.
Can I just tell you a secret about Starburst in case you don't know this? If you are a weightlifter or you're doing one of those competitive sports where you have to manage your weight, if you go through a lot of Starburst, they produce a ton of saliva, and she would lose 2 pounds a day by putting a Starburst under her tongue and then spitting out the saliva. True story.
You know that I'm a professional bodybuilder, and those things are important to me.
I thought you might be, and I thought you would like that.
I like that.
So look, for people who haven't listened to our podcast before, we need to tell them that we focus on the stories and the people that we're obsessed by and that we write about in the Daily Beast. And today we have two fantastic guests. We've got our Beast of the Week, Michael Wolff, who is the author of All or Nothing, which is his fourth book on Trump. And it's out now, and we want to know what on earth made him go back to write a fourth book about Donald Trump.
I mean,
except that he's an incredible writer, he's an incredible observer of people, and he writes the most brilliant studies of characters. He's not a typical political respondent. And I've watched him at work over the last 22 years, and it's astonishing to me how many people want to be chronicled by him and think that they will somehow be able to best his observational skills about them. I mean, when I was at New York Magazine with him, people call up desperate to be profiled by him. And the profile would frequently be incredibly negative, and they would still love it because he would have gotten at some essence that their therapist couldn't get at. And he explained them to themselves. And I think that's why probably the Trump camp or those around Trump talk so freely to Michael.
That is so interesting. What an interesting way to see it. I think you're totally right. People want to talk, they want to see themselves rendered in some way, and they can live with it, even if it's like just a little bit bruising.
Yeah, and I think people often understand their negative strains, right? And they want someone to explain them. Anyway, I can't wait to talk to him. And obviously, the book has already got a rise out of the president, who's denied much of what's in it, while still admitting that some of his advisors did speak to Michael about the book. And it contains revelations like Melania fucking hates him, from one observer. And of course, that Trump was terrified of dying on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. There's a wonderful story in the book where Trump's own plane is damaged. The windscreen has got a crack in it. They have to rent a plane. Unwittingly, they rent a private jet that used to belong to Jeffrey Epstein, which they only discover midway through a very turbulent flight where everybody's kind of bouncing around. And apparently in the book, Donald Trump is described as howling that he doesn't want to die on Jeffrey Epstein's plane, because even in that moment, he knows that that would be bad for him and his reputation, because he's always managing to his audience.
How could, I mean, a noted, alleged germaphobe like Trump be on Epstein's plane ever? That is just one giant hotel bedspread. There are human body fluids everywhere. That is just a Port Authority toilet.
I think it's probably been through several owners since Jeffrey Epstein had it. But you do think if they shone one of those lights, those purple ultraviolet lights on it, there would just be like stuff everywhere.
Just absolute nightmare.
On a more wholesome note, we'll also be talking to Leah Wyar, who's the president of People, about the crazy shit people do to get ready for the Oscars, which is coming up on Sunday.
Exciting. Well, you were just at the SAG Awards.
I was at the SAG Awards. I had great fun. I actually made a style choice this year to wear sneakers on the red carpet as opposed to heels. And I will say my feet thanked me.
You know what? I thought that we had all agreed, like nationally or maybe even globally, that after COVID, nobody would wear heels again. And then they came back.
They came back.
More hardcore than ever. I was talking to my husband the other day. He was like, what are those high heels? Like 6 inches? I'm like, 6 inches? You can't wear a 6-inch heel, you'll be pitched forward. You'll break your nose on the pavement. That's impossible, but people are doing it.
I know, it's crazy, but I just refuse to, and so I got a
No.
pair of silver, well, metallic sneakers, and I have to say it's not quite the same as wearing heels, but it was
No.
just so comfortable, and, the SAG Awards, like all these awards shows, people don't understand how much preamble there is, and then
Yes.
there's always a party afterwards. All I can tell you is we left the hotel at 1. I got back at 10:30 in the evening, and the whole time it felt like I'd been working very hard. Great fun, but I'm so glad I was wearing sneakers.
Yeah, sneakers, they're key. I used to go with if I had to do stuff like that, I would carry a huge clutch and I would put flip-flops in the clutch. And then at the end of the night
Oh,
when
that's
everybody
a
was yeah,
good
everybody would walk to their
style
cars,
trick.
you get all clogged up, everybody's walking to their cars, and
Yep.
I would just put on my flip-flops and everybody was mad at me and jealous. And that's my goal in life, to make everyone jealous, so it really worked out for me.
That
Great.
might be the most useful thing you have ever told me, because the
Yeah.
thing is, it's like, how do you find shoes that are small enough to go in a bag that you can
Yes.
carry around with you? Flip-flops, absolutely obvious, genius
Flip-flops.
idea.
Flip-flops. Mhm.
And also, I did notice at the end when you come out, there's always a scrum for the cars, and
Oh,
a lot of
yeah.
the women are kind of almost screaming because their
Screaming.
car isn't right there, and it's because everybody's in pain from the shoes.
Everybody's in pain from the shoes. I have to tell you, one year where I took my dad to the Emmys. I took my dad to the Emmys and a bunch of my friends, and it was that scrum at the end, and there's cars, like, there are hundreds of black cars
Hundreds,
lined
yeah,
up,
hundreds,
and they
yeah.
all look pretty much identical. It's either like a town car or it's a big Suburban or something like that, and my dad thought every single car was for him, and he really wanted to go home. He probably had to go to the bathroom or something, and he just walked through that scrum of cars going, "Are you here for Ron B? Are you here for Ron B?" He must have talked to 75 different car drivers, and I was like, "Your car is so" and then he was just too far away. I couldn't get him back. He was
Oh.
unleashed. Unleashed.
That is my idea of hell. The scrum for the black car, it sounds so
So
precious
terrible.
and, the uber white privilege, but, there was, and I won't say who they were, but there was a couple in front of us. He's a famous actor with a younger woman who was hysterical that their car hadn't arrived before other people, and she was like, "Did you see 3 other couples walked in front of us and got their car?" And he didn't
Oh,
care because he was wearing flat shoes. He was wearing kind of loafers. What did he care? So he was trying to calm her down. She was on the edge. She was on the edge of madness over her car, and I understood where it was coming from,
yeah.
and I was like, "I got me sneakers. I don't care."
Yeah, that's the spot.
Anyway,
That's the spot where you see everybody at the end of the night. Everyone's drunk, everybody's tired, everyone's
yeah.
sore. They're so hungry. You're just gonna see everything you need to see, and then you're gonna see my dad weaving around in between all the cars, trying to flag one down for himself.
I love it. Romby here, Romby. Okay, so
He's here.
I had a what would Sam be moment. I'm staying at the Four Seasons in LA,
Okay,
which
okay.
is where a lot of celebs stay, especially
Sure.
pre-Oscars. I'm in the elevator going down
Mhm.
to the 4th floor to meet a friend for lunch, and who should get into the elevator
Who?
but Kanye. Kanye got into the elevator
Stop it.
and he was wearing a black hoodie, black pants, black tee, black socks, no shoes, and he threw up his hood, and then he kind of laughed, and then he switched his phone on and was watching some kind of video, and I only had 2 stops, 2 floors to try and think of something to say, and it sort of failed me, and
What are you gonna
we
say?
both got out on the 4th floor, and I thought, "What would Sam B have said?"
What? I don't think I would have said what am I gonna say? What am I gonna how am I gonna open up an interlude with Kanye on an elevator? He's not wearing shoes. You know what?
I almost said, "I think you've forgotten your shoes,"
You've
and
forgotten
then
your
I thought,
shoes.
"Just stay quiet, just nothing good will come of this, just stay quiet."
Are you next door neighbors? Can you hear what's going on in his room?
No, because I think he's 2 floors below me.
Oh my god. I don't know that I would have said anything because it's just a remarkable moment, and I don't think you're gonna get anything started. I'm amazed, though. I wanna congratulate you for your restraint in not saying, would you like to come on the Daily Beast podcast?
I
Because
almost did. I should have done. And then afterwards, I was cross with myself that I hadn't said you need to come on the podcast. I could present it with Sam B. But I'm alert to the fact he's here now, so I'm gonna be looking.
Wow.
I'm gonna be looking for him. I'm gonna be chasing him down.
Chasing him down. Well, for the record, I don't want to talk to him on the podcast. That is not a good idea for us. No, thank you. No, thank you very
we could ask him
kindly.
about his weird fashion statement, but I agree we don't want to give that any publicity.
don't.
But I do want to say how much I loved seeing Jane Fonda give her speech. She looks amazing. There was so much joy in the room and sort of appreciation for her and her lifetime of extraordinary work. Endless Oscars, endless Golden Globes, more nominations than anybody else, I think, in the room, and just fabulous to be in the same room as her.
That's great. Yeah, her speech was very rousing. Not arousing, but rousing. It was really good. I really like Jane Fonda tremendously, and I don't know really how much people in the outside world want to hear from celebrities right now, but I sure appreciated. I loved what she said. I thought it was great.
Well, and I think she was trying to be political without being too political. So that thing she said about woke is just showing that you give a damn. She was, I think, sensitive to the fact that I'm sure they'd all been told, do not be political on this broadcast.
100%.
But she was trying to be human, and there was a sort of energy in the room which showed they understood the tightrope she was walking.
Can you imagine actually pulling aside Jane Fonda before an awards presentation and saying, Jane, love you so much. I really appreciate your life's work and all the causes you're so passionate about. Can you just keep it out of the realm of politics? She's like, pardon? Excuse me? Let me just step outside. Can you just...
Yeah. Well, whoever wrote her speech did a good job.
Well, she was great. She was great. I'm excited to talk to Michael Wolff. I don't really watch. I know the Academy Awards are coming up, and I'm interested in. I want to talk about skincare and all that jazz. But for me, the real Academy Awards is just talking to Michael Wolff and hearing all the good gossip.
Well, his book is, as you know, so readable, and we're very excited to have him on.
Yes. Whew.
We're back, and we're thrilled to be joined by this week's Beast of the Week, Michael Wolff. He's the author of the book that made tsunami-like waves this week, All or Nothing: How Trump Recaptured America. Wolff is a lifelong Trump chronicler. His first book, Fire and Fury, a behind-the-scenes expose of the first Trump administration, was, as you can imagine, not well-liked among MAGA supporters. And there's already been vehement pushback on the new book. The director of White House communications, Stephen Chung, has referred to Wolff as a lying piece of shit and a fraud with a peanut-sized brain. And in a joint statement, Trump campaign manager Chris Lasvita and Trump policy advisor Jason Miller referred to Wolff's latest book as total garbage. Alina Habba, counselor to the president of the United States, warned Michael Wolff, prepare to hear from my lawyers. So, Michael, are you a lying piece of shit?
Well, two things. First, it was a lying sack of shit.
A lying sack of this.
The keen verbal facility of the White House communications staff. And I just want to push back slightly on the lifelong implication here, because I did have a life before Donald Trump, as we all did.
It's hard to remember it now.
It's hard to remember, a month ago. So was your question was, why did I go back?
Yeah, I mean, this is your fourth book on Donald Trump. A, how has he changed from the first book, Fire and Fury? And B, what made you want to go in and... I mean, what's fascinating about the book is you started during the campaign. There was no sense of how the campaign would end, and you couldn't possibly have foreseen the extraordinary drama that was to unfold over the next 9 months of the attempted assassination attempt, of Biden stepping aside, of Kamala stepping into the ring, just drama week after week.
Well, I think you could anticipate, as you always can with Donald Trump, part of the spectacle or part of the charm even, that something unexpected and gobsmacking is going to happen. And certainly, I mean, at the beginning, I thought, well, I mean, he's going to be indicted, and there are going to be trials, and he may well go to jail, and that would have certainly been dramatic. But oddly enough, I mean, that seemed to be the zenith of drama. But oddly enough, it actually has been even more dramatic than that. Something more difficult to anticipate. The fact that he would defeat and defy the entire legal system and rise like a phoenix.
People spoke to you for the book. How has the temperature changed since you, I mean, we can see in the blowback.
Well,
but
I mean, I think honestly, I would say, I mean, and remember, the people who speak to me, I mean, I've been doing this for so long, um, and know these people, or many of them, so well. I mean, some, they may even cross the line into friends, actually. And I would say that, I mean, the people around Donald Trump have much the same feelings as the people not around Donald Trump. I mean, they're incredulous about what goes on. And I think that they also felt like, I think most people probably reasonably and logically felt, that there was no way he was going to actually be elected again. And so the temperature toward me and their own sense of what kind of hot water they might be in has changed with the election. So I think that they're pretty panicked, and certainly at this point want to distance themselves from talking to me. Although, having said that, they are still talking to me.
Right. It's so interesting. Like, I always wonder, I'm reading your book right now. I think it's fantastic. It's super, super interesting. And I wonder, with everybody in his orbit so incredulous about the way he conducts himself, why do they continue wanting to be in his orbit? Is it actually worth it? Can you please describe that to me? I don't understand.
Well, I mean, if you're in the political business, and if you're a Republican, and if you're a Republican political operative, you really have no alternative. I mean, the alternative is binary. You either go to the other side, you become a Democrat. I mean, which effectively the anti-Trump Republicans had come. All those bulwark people, used to be mainstream Republicans. They're functionally Democrats now. So if you still see yourself in this role, then this is your, for better or worse, this is your fate.
Are the people who spoke to you, they must be quite panicked, because a lot of the scenarios that you describe in the book were in really close quarters without tons of people in the room. It seems like it would be very easy to determine who was talking.
Yes, I mean, I would say that the only thing that sort of mitigates this is that everybody was talking, frankly.
Right. Everybody is talking.
So if you parse, it becomes difficult to parse who said what to whom at which point.
Is every administration like this?
And also the other important thing is that Trump talks. So he is always talking. He is on the phone constantly.
Yes.
So everything that he says to someone else, and whatever he says he repeats, is quickly retailed throughout the Trump ecosystem, of which I have found a kind of place to be.
Is every administration filled with people who are just dying to talk about every moment of what's happening?
No, not like this.
No.
Not like this at all. I mean, there is always obviously an amount of leaking, but not a moment by moment, word by word. You won't believe it. That's how almost every phone call has begun with me over the past 18 months.
Because the level of detail is exceptional. I mean, it's incredibly detailed, your work. My goodness.
I still don't understand why people talk to you, Michael. Why do they talk to you? Because what's in it for them?
I mean, other than to blow my own horn that I am good at this. I am a good listener. I am a non-judgmental, I guess you might say. And over a long period of time, I've gotten to know these people. And, honestly, I've written, this is my 4th book. They've liked the other 3 books. It's an accurate portrait. It may be, you might judge it a devastating portrait, but this is the life. I mean, these people are actually quite clear-eyed about what has happened. To them, they are on this ride, for better or worse, and it has been for both. They lose, they win. They win unexpectedly, and they all understand that's the deal, and they don't, to themselves, pretend that Donald Trump is anything but Donald Trump. And I think it's helpful for them to talk about that. I think it's interesting to talk to me because I've been on much of this ride with them.
I think you're like a therapist to them. So they really open up to you because they need to talk to somebody who understands the position that they're in.
Yeah,
Who,
I mean, I'm not like, and I always try to sort of make this distinction between what political reporters do and what I do. If you're a political reporter for the Washington Post or Politico or the New York Times, you have an institutional response and institutional responsibility to how you interact with these people. I don't have that at all. So I don't have to have an agenda. I don't have to have questions. I can just listen.
right.
Trump said about you, and I know for the first book, Fire and Fury, you sat in the White House for 9 months and just it all went on around you and they barely understood what you were doing. Obviously, now they understand what you're doing. And I'm sure there must be some part of Donald Trump that thinks these books are good for him because A, it just means people are talking about him. And once again, he's likely to be top of the book charts. He said about you in his denial that you're fake news, you're a total loser, one of his favorite words, and no one should waste their time or money in buying this obviously fictitious book. And then he says, I assume, however, he was able to speak to a small number of people. And then he adds, but not meaningfully, which in his response to your book actually validates the book that you did speak to people.
Yeah, no. And if he says a small number of people, that probably means that he understands it was actually a large number of people.
Right.
And obviously his concern, and is he concerned, or is he just using me as a way to express his usual contempt and dominance, and it really has nothing to do with me, which I would think is probably the case. But maybe he is concerned that I did also speak to meaningful people, although in Donald Trump's world, he doesn't consider anyone to be meaningful.
Right. What would you say is the primary way that he's changed? Because he has evolved. And what is your understanding of him
You see, I
now?
don't really think he has evolved. I don't think
No.
he has changed. I think part of what Donald Trump does is not change and just continue to do what has always worked for what has worked for 40 years. He continues to do the same thing. He might continue to do more of it. And one of the things about what he does, which is generate conflict, you have to continue in order to maintain this. Your conflicts have to be bigger, and I think that's where we are now, and why we're so kind of surprised and knocked back on our heels over what has happened in the last month, because the provocations are just greater.
Is there any feedback that you think that he would receive from the public that would cause him to change course?
He'll read the headlines. He reads the media as well as anyone, better perhaps. I mean, he knows the signal. If his audience is not responding, he'll change the joke. mean,
Right.
he is like a comedian in that. If he's not getting the laughs, if he's not getting the response, he'll find something else. And that does change. I mean, he doesn't get the response because people get bored with what he's doing, so then he has to ratchet up. He has to create some other kind of conflict.
Mhm.
I think it's a helpful way to think about Donald Trump, to just think about the reactions he's looking for, because it's all about reactions, not about policy. It's not about accomplishing anything. It's not about a legislative agenda. It's about reactions and the media reaction primarily.
I guess I wonder if do you have additional concerns with, Kash Patel and all the people that he's put in place, Pam Bondi? Do you have concerns because they're so vengeful? Because, when we look at what happened at the Kennedy Center, it's impossible for us to trace it back, but people think it kind of like goes back to when he was first president in 2016 and like a slight against him that he held on to for all that time. Are you concerned about their desire to change libel laws, which they have expressed?
Terribly concerned. I mean, I think it is. I mean, the media is in a very, very precarious position, a more precarious position, I might say, since, I don't know, Joe McCarthy. I mean, it's extreme at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're recording this on a Wednesday, and yesterday it was announced that they're going to decide who the press pool comprises of. Is that something we should all be concerned about?
Yes.
To me, the press pool has always been a kind of a weird artifact that hangs around. Why do you have to be in the White House? That's just a performative thing on the part of the media.
Susie Wiles is in your book. She's such a fascinating figure to me. Where is she right now? What do you know of what her thinking is right now?
She's keeping her head down.
Yeah.
She has survived in the Trump sphere because she's incredibly disciplined and understands that her singular role is make the trains run on time. And anything else, stay out of. I mean, she stays out of his way. Every other chief of staff has ultimately come to tears because they actually believe that they might be the real chief of staff, a real chief of staff. Which is obviously not the case.
So Michael, what is it like for the people working around him? Are they all? I mean, there's so much of this book that reminds me of Wolf Hall and the characters around kings, like Henry VIII, and one can only think of his wives, divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived. Are they at each other's throats?
Yeah, they hate each other. I mean, I think that's really clear. I mean, it's a very I can hardly conceive of an atmosphere that's more fraught than this. They're always obsessed with who's leaking to whom, and they are all leaking. And then this jockeying for proximity around him, and being in his favor or out of his favor, and not wanting to be associated with someone who is out of favor at any given time. I mean, so just think of this as a pyramid, and at the top is this figure, wholly mercurial, who you can't predict what he's going to do, but your own survival means you kind of have to be somewhat successful in making those predictions. Everybody is moving either out of the way or in the way at any given period of time. I mean, they're feeling it. And also, remember, he treats people terribly. I can't even imagine being spoken to in the way he speaks to people. You're now, curiously, there's a reward. I mean, in my book, there's a lot of verbatim conversations, verbatim tirades toward his lawyers.
Yes.
And these are absolutely humiliating. Imagine being people who have had long and in some cases very respectable legal careers being dressed down. At one point, in the middle of one of the trials, he addresses the lawyers and says, and he's saying this without irony. He's saying, "Have you ever heard of a man named Perry Mason?" That's interesting because all of his media references are, decades and decades old. But it also is true. And, what he really thinks of lawyers, they should be television lawyers. And so that they have to stand there and take this. And when he says, "Have you ever heard of a man named Perry Mason?" That's not a rhetorical question. He wants an answer. Have you heard of him? Do you know what Perry does? How does Perry do what he does? You would think that this is that these people would say, I got to get out of here. I'm leaving. Why should I take this? And I suppose the reason that they should take this is that these people who he has shit on a daily basis, they now run the Justice Department.
How is Donald Trump managing with Elon Musk? Can you explain that relationship to us?
My understanding from inside is that there's a rising level of irritation. But having said that, Elon is very useful to him at this point. Elon is more out in front of things that fundamentally are probably unpopular. Firing people is never popular. So Elon will take the incoming on that. So that's useful to Donald Trump. At the same time, he's in this, kind of, he's gotten himself into a sort of a difficult position because the media is saying, well, this relationship is going to end any day now. So therefore, he can't do what the media says he's going to do. But I think probably the model here, Elon is actually in the Steve Bannon role from the first administration. I mean, they were both on the cover of Time magazine as the real president, that kind of thing. And Bannon lasted for 6 months. So I think that's probably the measure for Elon.
And where does Melania live? It's such a point of discussion in the book, and I'm so curious. It's not really known, is it?
It actually is sort of known. She doesn't live with him, or they spend very, very, very little time together. At one point in the book, someone describes it as whenever she's at the White House, was at Mar-a-Lago, it's like she's a guest. And she lives basically she lives in Trump Tower now. And, and that's so, Barron goes to NYU and they live together, which is, if I were a freshman in college, that would be not exactly the circumstance I would want.
Well, I don't know. I've seen some of the NYU dorms. I think Trump Tower would be preferable to the NYU dorms. But is Melania coming back onto the scene more? I mean, notably, she was absent for 18 months from the campaign.
From the campaign, from any of never made a trial appearance, would not sit next to him at the convention on her one appearance on the last day was contingent on him not being in the VIP box. But on the other hand, I think Melania I think they are matched in their particular opportunism. She published this absolutely peculiar book, which is
yes, I read it.
My theory is that it's the first AI written bestseller.
100% agree. Hard agree.
And there's no one even thanked in the book, probably because there is no one to thank.
I don't even think she read it.
Yeah, no, it's kind of extraordinary. But she's having this documentary. Jeff Bezos is paying her millions upon millions of dollars to do this documentary directed by Brett Ratner, totally peculiar in every respect, and a payoff and a bit of again, this is her opportunity.
What you call the journalistic elite, they are not are they not happy with you, or what is their issue with your work?
They all work for a company.
Right.
They're all institutional players. I am the last, and there used to be many, many, many people like me. But I seem to be the last independent player here.
Right.
And I also try to always make this distinction, which people have trouble with, that there are political reporters. Political reporters do something different than I do. I am a writer.
Right.
I am not a political reporter. I'm not particularly even interested in politics. I'm interested in character. I'm interested in this incredible story for its own sake, not for how it relates to policy or legislative agenda or who ultimately is going to prevail in the Republican Party. So that's I think people have many colleagues have some trouble with that, and also um, I don't know, because I sell more books than they do.
Right.
I don't know, but my main point is always what they do is fine. I mean,
Right.
it's great. It's just not what I do. And the important thing is, or always was, to have different ways, different windows through which to see these
Right.
events. And I am fundamentally a magazine writer, long form, whatever it is, and that was always a genre fundamentally about character.
Right.
And now there are no magazines, so there are no magazine writers. And
So, Michael, understanding as you do Trump's character and his desire for reaction, what drives his apparent appeasement of Putin?
well, that is the question. I mean, this is the question that has been going on for nearly 10 years now. What does Vladimir Putin have on Donald Trump? What can Vladimir Putin give to Donald Trump? How does Trump benefit in this relationship? I mean, all of these questions, I think it's reasonable to presume, actually have an answer. We just don't know the answer. I mean, I sat around once with after Trump had gone to meet with Putin in Helsinki, I believe, and this probably would have been in 2019, 18, 19. I sat around with Steve Bannon. We had actually gone to Europe together, and it was trying to figure out exactly, was Steve trying to figure out what Putin might have on Trump. It was with Bannon acknowledging that this was all too weird for words, and that he described that news conference afterwards. Trump looked like a whipped dog. So what had Putin said to Donald Trump to bring him to heel? I mean, this may be the central question of our time.
And also, I kind of look at Marco Rubio now, just trying to parse these new developments in such a state of discomfort that it actually strikes me that I don't understand why he would want to be Secretary of State, knowing that he was going to have to kind of knowing that he was going to be a part of appeasing Putin, it's
so difficult to understand because
yeah.
Empirically, every relationship that Trump has had has ended in tears.
Yes.
So to assume that yours will not is a level of denial I can't even imagine. Nevertheless, that's what all of these people have effectively done.
Yeah.
They effectively say to themselves, I can be the one person who is different. And the one person who actually has been different, who went the distance and emerged from it and benefited from it, is Jared Kushner. So
Right.
I would say that's the that's the example that people should be looking at, and they should the fact that Jared is nowhere to be seen, they should be saying, what does he know that I don't know?
Right. And I'm curious what you think that, because with all of the nominees that he made, who are just, he's chosen so many people who are totally unqualified for the positions they have now achieved. What is the benefit to Trump, who I don't think probably even thinks about the positions they've taken on certain issues? He's just, was it so intentional to just choose people who are such bizarre choices? Like, it is such a
Yeah, no, I think these are provocations.
right.
You know, and in the book, I quote a friend of Trump's as trying to analyze this, and this friend having had a conversation with Trump about Bobby Kennedy Jr., Haggith, and what's his name?
Kash Patel?
Already forgotten his name. Gates.
Oh, yeah.
The
Matt
Oh,
Gaetz.
Matt
Yes.
Gates,
And
the AG.
Trump is saying, well, they all have women problems, so I can't wait to see how they handle that. Um,
Mm.
and
Oh,
and then this person interpreted, Trump is not really concerned with the fires he sets. He's really what really is he finds compelling is the fire engines and all the noise and these
right.
big trucks heading down the street with their sirens on.
So it's like, for him, it's like a real life version of watching Survivor.
Yes, and it is really probably the most important thing to always keep in mind. Trump was the star of a top-rated reality television
Mhm.
show for 14 years. Not a year, not two, 14 years. I mean, you must internalize all of that kind of thing. What does a reality show have to do to keep its audience's attention?
I find it so chilling. I told Joanna last week that I do think that what often happens is that he has like a really weird dream and then wakes up in the morning and thinks, I'm going to do the thing. I dreamt this crazy thing last night. Should we do it? And everybody goes, oh, okay. And then they enact those visions.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. The only difference is they don't say, "Oh, okay." They say, "Oh, fuck."
Right. Well, to you, they say that.
And then they have to figure out what to do, how little they can get away with doing.
Right.
How do you suspect this second go round is going to end?
In tears. It always does end in tears. I mean, the remarkable thing about Donald Trump is it ends in tears and then he comes back again. But certainly everything that is going on by any reasonable measure, by any logic, is unsustainable. This is, provocations at a punk rock level. There's ultimately no point to them except the provocation itself. And eventually, this is, the whole idea of an autocrat, of a despot, all of that is very difficult, if not impossible, if not ridiculous even to consider in a society that is as complex as this one. I mean, it is eventually all of this, the powers that be, and there are fierce, fierce, fierce powers rebel. I mean, if the bond market goes south, you're out of business. I mean, no matter who you are,
Right.
no matter how rich you are, no matter how powerful you believe, no matter how the Republican Party is at your feet.
Right.
I mean, I don't remember who said in the last number of years that was a politician. Maybe it was Obama. When he died, he'd like to come back as the bond market. There are forces out there, many forces, not a few. And now, Trump is trying to, screw with the Pentagon, with the military. Well, good luck with that.
Well, Michael, your book is delectable. I'm enjoying it so thoroughly, and I really love your work, and I hope you're already writing a fifth book.
I really hope I am not.
I really
somehow,
unfortunately.
begin on their own.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and I'll speak to you both soon.
Welcome back. We're joined now by the president of People magazine, Leah Wyar, to get the download on all the crazy shit that people do to prepare for award season. Of course, there's the Oscars on Sunday, and we want to know exactly what people have been up to. Leah, it's great to have you back. And frankly, it's very brave of us to have you back, because after you came on to talk about Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, our YouTube was just full of comments about how we knew nothing, how it was all the Baldini-ettes basically came out to hate on you. So welcome back.
Joanna, you just called him Baldini. You're going to get so much flack about that.
Well, I was trying to say Baldini-ettes, but it didn't come out properly.
It's Baldoni.
Baldoni-ettes. Baldoni-ettes. Anyway, the Baldoni-ettes
so much trouble.
I know.
They're going to be able to get
everyone's passionate, very passionate about him. A lot of passionate Baldoni-ettes.
A lot of passion.
Well, one of the favorite things I used to do when I was at Cosmopolitan and Leah was the beauty director there was we used to discuss the crazy shit that people would do to get ready for award ceremonies. And Leah is the keeper of the secrets. But Leah, we saw each other at the SAG Awards. I was a guest at the people table. Thank you so much. People look incredible. I mean, the truth is that in that month of the SAG Awards, the Golden Globes, the Oscars, people do look superhuman. You feel when you're an ordinary person like I am, a mere mortal, that you are 3 times the size of everybody else, that you're twice as short. I felt this year everybody had gotten very tall. There were some really, really tall celebrities. And I'm fascinated by how they manage it. Tell us how we too could look superhuman.
Well, if you get a pair of 5 or 6 inch heels, we can all be that tall. Yes. I think the heels have gotten higher, not the humans.
Oh, interesting. I was in sneakers because I just couldn't take the heels anymore.
Well, you looked amazing, but I was in probably the highest heels I've ever worn to an event. And I have to tell you, today, I am so sore. Like my hips are so sore. I was also in a very, very, very tight dress. And so I had to kind of like contort my body to like stay on the heel and not like ruin the dress. And it is painful. It's painful what people go through to get themselves to this place and to look so amazing. And so to answer your question, it's everything. It's like, we've never been in a place in society before where we could openly talk about weight loss in the way that we've talked about in the last few months with this Ozempic craze. And, you know, that alone, there's some people who are super open about it. Kathy Bates has talked about it. Oprah Winfrey has talked about it. Like we should be having an open conversation of what this is, but there is always the dark side of people going too far. And I do think you do see that in the award shows. Like people are so thin to a degree that does make skinny people like yourself, Joanna, feel 3 times the size of everybody else. Like
I'm just normal, but my arms up against Demi Moore's arms. Demi Moore's arms, I could barely see them. They were just translucent. They're so thin at this point.
I do think like has to be an incredibly stressful season for her, right? Like that Globe speech was unbelievable. And that whole movie to me is just, you know, I watched it the other night. I don't know, either of you watched it?
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Great.
Yeah, we watched it obsessively. Yeah.
So, you know, I don't think I was expecting what it ended up being at the end. You know, the first hour is so riveting. And it's so, as a woman, you're sitting there shaking your head like, yes, I totally get this. I totally understand why she feels this way, why she wants to take this shot to make herself younger. And then, you know, the last hour kind of is, if you're not prepared for the blood and gore, it's a little disturbing, but it is very symbolic of what happens in this world and what happens in Hollywood after a certain age. And that I think is the reason why people sometimes can go off the rails with this stuff. But getting back to your original question, it's like, what are people not doing? Like they're working out crazily. They're probably, a lot of them, taking some sort of GLP-1.
I remember you telling me that one year it was the red wine diet where people
Yeah, what is that? I want to know that.
You don't eat or drink for 5 days, and then
Okay, it's
an
already
hour
impossible.
and then an hour before you go to the awards, you have a glass of red wine, and it's supposed to pull you all together. The impact of the wine, that was certainly a craze one year. Is there a specific craze this year, Leah?
Okay, so I think what's interesting is that people do take that fasting element, and now because fasting has become so healthy, you kind of convince yourself that you're being healthy with your fast. And so it's like the water fast a couple of days before. That whole red wine thing, interestingly, I was talking to my husband about it, and he was like, "Yeah, don't you know the biggest fighter in the world, his name's Ilya Topuria. He has admitted that before a weigh-in, he goes and he has wine the night before because it's a diuretic. Like it takes like all the water out and you end up weighing in a few pounds less. So like there's actual science behind that. I don't know how healthy it is, but there is science behind why people do that. I think the fasting stuff is hugely popular. Maybe going a dose or two beyond your normal Ozempic dose is certainly happening. And then it's like all the beauty stuff that goes into it. You got to time the Botox, you got to time the fillers, you got to time all this stuff so that you don't look bruised, but you look like perfect. And all the facials that are, I mean, there's so many facials now that are they're just staples. Like you and I used to go, remember Joanna, you and I used to go to this woman that would do the facials with like her fingers in your mouth, and she would like massage the inside of your mouth to kind of release the tension at like the jawline.
I do. She would wear rubber gloves, and she was supposed to be Kate Moss's massage person, and she would put her fingers right up. It was the most painful thing, but it was very effective.
That technique is almost like the norm now. It's like a deep tissue facial massage that kind of like gets everything more symmetrical, because when you have like that tension all over the place, like you don't always look as symmetrical as you want to look. It gets sort of the blow, like the cupping on the face now is like everybody's doing the cupping with the facials beforehand to get rid of, like, to just get that much smoother jawline. So much going in. There are these crazy serums now that they incorporate into a lot of facials that contain a lot of enzymes and like albumin, which is the what you see on the inside of an eggshell, and you put that on your face and it just like tightens it all up. And even if you wash it off, the effect that tightening has with like pushing the circulation and pushing the oxygen up is supposed to have like a longer term effect. So like you'll get that the day before, 48 hours before. So it's like all the timing that you have to do to make sure that on that day you look really glowy, you don't have any bruising, everything's in the right place. And it does make a difference to the way your makeup can look on your face and how you feel confidence wise.
Everybody's so glowy right now. I'm watching The White Lotus and I'm looking at Michelle Monaghan's skin. And I'm like, what is happening on your face? Like, you're lit so beautifully, but also your skin just looks like it's like a beautiful glass, but like you want to touch it, like a silky.
It's funny, Sam, because I was watching it last night and I had the same reaction. Like,
right.
They're very youthful, all of this cast.
Of course.
They look amazing. But
they look amazing.
And that the lighting in the location they're shooting is quite perfect. So let's give, us mortals some credit too. We're not in the South Pacific, but
And do celebrities get all these treatments free, or are they paying?
That's a great question. That's a great one.
I think it's a toss up. A lot of like the hair and makeup people, these are people that these celebrities really just contract to be at their beck and call a lot of times, and that costs money. Like they're not doing that for free. And that is certainly paid work, and those people absolutely deserve to be paid every penny. I think from the skin side, there are some facialists and estheticians, doctors for that matter, who want the publicity of being associated with a certain celebrity. And so they will offer some or all services for free because they know this person will talk about them and show off their work, and it's a reflection of what they do. And then some of them, they just want the cash, right? So it's a little bit of a trade-off, I think, depending on who you are, what caliber of celebrity that you are. Some of these A-listers, if they're willing to say, I get my facials by X, or so-and-so did my Botox, or whatever it is, they do sometimes get them for free.
What happens if you go get Botox and you just get like, I remember the first time I ever got it for my little 11s, which I love. I was like, what happens if I'm just a person who reacts poorly to it and I get and my eyelid droops and it lasts for 6 months?
So the good thing is that they can inject something else, which will dissolve that, and it will,
the terror,
give you back the symmetry, the whatever it is that's bothering you. Actually, when I went for my Botox a couple of weeks ago, that was the last thing the doctor said, was like, you got to live with it for 2 weeks, and if it looks weird, come back and we'll fix it. And so like they can fix it, but also it goes back to all the timing that you're putting into, up until the day. Like if it goes bad, you're not accounting for it going bad. You're not accounting for maybe needing an extra shot, getting an extra bruise. It's all this. We're living the substance in real life, people.
We are living the substance in real life. I've never had cupping on my face. I think Sam and I need to go and get some cupping.
Oh, cupping. And also this salmon sperm facial is all the rage these days. I don't know if you guys have read about this thing, but
no.
But if we're talking about the glow, that's the thing that everybody's talking about right now. And it is true. Salmon sperm going onto your
salmon
face.
Sperm.
I don't even understand how salmon would produce enough sperm to cover a face.
I don't know. I don't understand the science behind going, you know what we should try on our faces? The semen of an underwater creature. Like, let's just put it on. They glow under the water.
Let's try it.
Yeah, they have that beautiful color. And the crazy thing is that in Korea, where this really started to get traction on TikTok, they're injecting it. And so you can't do it in America, at least you're not supposed to. Yet. But so it's more topical in America, but the place where it started, they are injecting it. So there's,
oh my gosh,
who knows? I mean, there's so many crazy things. At one point, I think people were putting like placenta on their face or like some kind of crazy embryonic something. So it's just always something new. This is the beauty of the beauty world, the beauty of marketing.
I can't try stuff like, I can't do like salmon semen in my subcutaneously because I would grow scales. I'd be like the first test case. They'd be like, oh, she became a fish woman. she actually morphed.
To swim really well. I mean, it would be great.
Oh my God, no. Jesus.
Joanna, I had a question for you because when being there with you was so fun because it kind of brought back so many memories of our past lives together. And one of the things that I remembered was when you invited Cynthia Erivo to Michael's. We did this very small lunch of 10 people. And you not only got Cynthia Erivo there in the height of her Color Purple moment, but you actually got her to sing at the restaurant. Do you remember that?
I do. And I remember her coming by to the office and singing with Michael Bublé, who weirdly just happened to be there. The two of them dropped in because at Cosmo, we would have all sorts of people just drop in. And the two of them sang a duet, which I have on my phone, but we weren't allowed to put on social media because it would infringe copyright of the song. But I'm so thrilled for Cynthia's success. She's such she's got an unbelievable out of this world voice, but she's such a sort of decent, nice person. And it was very sweet of her to sing. I think did she sing Happy Birthday? What did she sing at Michael's?
I can't think of what it was, but it was almost like an old sort of like 40s or 50s song. Like it had like that kind of a vibe, and it was just beautiful. I have it on my phone too. And I think like now my niece wants to watch it all the time because she's obsessed with Wicked, and she's just like, I can't believe you met this person. And it was, it's really cool to watch her. I watched her walk through all the red carpet interviews, and she's such a like good human and such a gracious person. She stops for everybody. But at the very end of the carpet, there was this sea of people, but much like social media reporters, and they all did the rally cry from Wicked when she walked to them, and they were, and she just loved it so much, and she was just dressed in that. Oh, I just loved her look. It was a Givenchy dress, and Jason Bolden, who I just think is one of the best designers or one of the best stylists in Hollywood, dressed her, and I think they said it was kind of reminiscent of like a Tin Man look. It was really a cool look. It was one of my favorites. That one and the Anna Sawai from that Armani Privé that was like that red, and it kind of had like an open section on the side. It was so gorgeous. But I did enjoy the fashion at SAG. I thought I was a little nervous that because of the fires that people were going to play it safe this award season, and I loved that at SAG people took some risks, and it was interesting.
When can I get all of these outfits on Quince? Soon? 2 weeks.
Very soon. Very soon.
Thank you.
And they'll all be $50 or under.
Of course, they have to be.
Leah, it's always a pleasure to have you on. I know you're tracking the Baldoni and Blake Lively suit for us. Is there anything new we need to know?
She did file the amended complaint last week, and that was mostly to do, I think, with having a little bit more of like a protective order, because I think she is going through it. Whoever side you're on, they're both completely stressed out, right? So like, I don't know how it must be very difficult to wake up every day having to mother these children, having to just sort of show up in the world and know that like this is weighing on you. So I think that was like a lot of what that amended thing had to do with, was just like, I can't get out of bed and operate each day. And what is this going to do to my future, my businesses? And I just need a little bit more confidentiality in this case right now. That was sort of like the update that I have seen, and I totally get, right? So I don't know. It's a tricky one. There's it's very polarizing, but we shall see how this plays out. I do think it's calming down though a little bit. I don't think it's as in the news as much, and I think like both sides are maybe pulling back. So we'll see if that lasts.
I think they're going to need UN peacekeepers in to figure it out. Anyway, we're going to rely on you to keep us updated with it, and we will look forward to having you back on soon.
Fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so I do think we ought to try cupping.
Okay, just stop me if I'm wrong, but cupping causes gigantic bruises all over your body. What is happening?
I think the bruises indicate that we are celebrity level beauty hounds, and that actually it's signaling. If I have cupping along my jaw, it's signaling I know what's going on in Hollywood and I need to be part of it.
Joanna, I hate to tell you this, but you and I are two professional street rats. We live in this world. We can't take 12 days off to like live at home and lounge around while our bruises heal. We will be swollen.
We're street rats. I imagine that we're like that rat that picked up the piece of pizza and scurried across
two
the
pizza
subway.
rats.
That's who we are.
Two working woman pizza rats in New York City, scrambling around. Yeah, there's no world in which we have the time to recover properly from cupping on our face, and we'll be swollen. We will just look like we were horribly, like we got pushed in front of a subway train and still somehow made it to work. It's terrible.
All right. Well,
God, there's no time to recover.
There's no time to recover. But if you have been, thank you for listening to this week's podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please tell all your friends and tell all the people you don't know but you want to be your friends.
Yes.
And keep sending us those emails.
Oh, yeah. Send the emails to beastpod@thedailybeast.com or drop a healthy comment on YouTube. Tell us how we can improve for you.
There were some good comments last week about my own blusher, which I had done myself, and it said it looked like I had a sort of traffic crossing on my cheek, which in fact it did. When I looked at it, I was like, how did I not even notice that? So I like those comments. Keep them coming. And if you're not a subscriber to the Daily Beast, why not? It couldn't be easier. Go to dailybeast.com and sign up for membership.
And you all know, as my muse most poetically once said, get out there and just be best.
Oh, she said be beast.
Damn it. Damn it. I'm going to get it right one day. Or not. She's bringing back Be Best, right? I hope so.
I hope so.
That'll be
oh
so
my
good
God,
for
that'll be
us.
fantastic.
That'll be so
best.
good. So good
Be
for
more best.
being more best. Be even more best, children.